Hello and welcome to the Acoustic Guitar community. My name is Kevin Owens. I'm the managing editor of Acoustic Guitar. I'm here today with the legendary Greg Brown, who's nice enough to come to us from his home in Iowa City, his living room. Is that right, Greg?
That's where I am. Yep.
Nice. So thank you for welcoming us into your home. It's kind of a like a personalized book tour, a book reading tour that we're having today. For all,
Yeah.
whoever's able to make it, we'll have the replay up on acousticguitar.com in about 24 hours. If anybody that you know couldn't make it, that you know should be here to be a part of this, let them know. That'll be up there. And thank you for your support and for taking time out of your busy Thursday to be a part of this. Um, as I think I briefly mentioned, we're here with Greg Brown today to discuss his new songbook called Ring Around the Moon. And it's called a songbook. It's got 100+ pages of great songs and stuff, but it's a little bit more than that. It's a scrapbook, an intimate collection of photos, some coffee stained song drafts, drawings,
uh,
little bits of, really a welcome into your world. A lot of people wouldn't be comfortable sharing as much as you've shared in this book, I don't think, Greg. But
it was
you
all
know,
lies, so I went for
judging by your songs, though, I think you're pretty used to sharing. So
it.
that's one of those things. So today, Greg and I will chat for just a little bit. If anybody has any questions, please type them into the chat. I'll be monitoring that, so you can ask a question in there. I'll get it to Greg if you need to. He's going to play a couple of songs from the book, read a couple of excerpts, I think. And yeah, we'll just have a nice hang. It's kind of like I said, a bookstore in your living room or office or library or wherever you're coming to us from. But before we get started, I'd like to read a little excerpt from the January-February 1993 issue of Acoustic Guitar, of which Jeffrey Pepper Rogers, the founding
Oh, I
editor,
remember that guy. Yeah.
yeah, I think he mentioned spending a little time on your porch one day, so I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But here's the intro to that piece that I'd like to read to you all just before we get started. Again, from the January-February 1993 issue of Acoustic Guitar by Jeffrey Pepper Rogers. The songs of Greg Brown are composed of the simplest ingredients: a few familiar chords that fall easily under the fingers, uncluttered, elemental melodies, musings on the twists, hardships, and pleasures of life. Scores of singer-songwriters work with the same recipe, but so few have what binds it all together: character. Brown's songs brim over with it, from his subversive wit to his penetrating lyrics to the amazingly rich voice that brings his stories to life. Listening to a solo acoustic performer is a lot like meeting him one-on-one, and is in his unassuming way, Greg Brown is an unforgettable person to know. And you know, those are pretty nice words from someone, not really at the beginning of your career, but not as far into it as you are now.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. How does that make you feel to hear that? Is it
Oh, you hear a lot of things. No, that I remember Jeffrey. He was an easy guy to be around.
Yeah,
That was
he still
nice.
is, fits that description well. So this book, like I said, it's not just a songbook. What what made you want to make this book? I know you not enough aggravation in your life, or you wanted to
Well,
start a
I
project.
had stopped touring. I stopped touring uh, shortly before the pandemic, actually, and so I had more time. And then, over the years, I'd mentioned to several friends that maybe I'll do a songbook sometime. Well, so every time I'd see them, hey, how's that song? Everybody, my friends were kind of leaning on me. So I finally just jumped in and got it done. And the woman who was just here a little while ago, Mei Ling Shaw, she put the whole thing together.
I saw
And
she had some photos in
she's
there,
so
and
good at all that stuff. I mean, there wouldn't be any book if it wasn't for Melee. That's for
wow,
sure.
it's nice to give her credit. There probably wouldn't be any book without you either, but we'll give her some equal credit
Yeah, I
there.
kind of enjoyed doing that. Really, I mean, I wrote some pieces and I did some of my little doodles and went through some old photos. I enjoyed the whole thing really.
Right, it's a really cool layout. It's and a wealth of knowledge for your fans and people that want to weigh in to your, to your musical world. How did you narrow down the songs to put in here?
I just kind of I went through my records and I went through some old set lists and just gradually, I didn't want it to have too many songs in it. I think it's got like around 40
Yeah.
songs in it. So, and I tried to get a variety, just kind of poke through all of it.
And
And
so I
kind of
guess
like
you,
making an album, you just put the songs that you think might hang together.
right, you took anything that tied together and worked for you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Um, it seems like it's a very personal experience to do something like this. Were there any times that you're like, I can't keep going here? Are you confident enough in your catalog and history and all that that it didn't
I don't
trigger
really know
too many
what you're
bad memories?
asking.
I'm just wondering if it was any emotional times digging through the past like that, or
Oh,
well,
no, not really. I mean, there was emotional times, but when you get old, a lot of your older emotional times kind of smooth out a little bit, and no, I mean, I didn't get into any real heavy stuff, I don't think, but no, I kind of enjoyed telling those old stories. Most of them were true.
that's great. And they're all from different points in your life. One of them that I wanted you to perhaps read if you were in the mood to would be the bit of about Hacklebarney on page
Oh, you want me to
32.
read that one?
Yeah, do you mind?
Oh, I'll see if I can find it in here. It might just be called Hacklebarney. I don't know.
Yeah, it is on.
It's just called Hacklebarney?
Yeah, and it's a written thing, 32.
Oh, 32, you're way ahead of me. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, this is called Hacklebarney. Hacklebarney, by the way, is the name of a little area of country in southern Iowa, not too far from Eldon, closer to Dodds. But back a long time ago, before there were many towns at all, a lot of little areas out in the country had a name, like Hacklebarney was right next to Turkey Scratch. And if you said that, somebody would know within, let's say, 3 or 4 miles of what you were talking about. So that's how it got that name. And somebody asked my grandpa what that meant, what Hacklebarney meant. And he said, it just kind of tail into nothing. And that was a pretty good description. Hacklebarney, what a racket. In the front room of the house that had come in sections on the train from Sears, 1901, the year of my grandpa's birth, 48 years before I was born. He was playing on the banjo, his son Franklin on the mandolin. There was a fiddle player too, I don't remember his name. Grandma joined in on the pump organ once in a while, and then we'd go back out to the kitchen. There were a lot of people there. You could hardly walk through the house. I was 6, sitting on the floor, taking it all in. Here, Rattler here, going up Cripple Creek, going down yonder, Flop-eared Mule. The music lurched around like a drunk car headed for the ditch. There were cans of beer on the floor. Frank was grinning a dangerous grin. When he got drunk, he always wanted to fight, and he was getting closer. I watched Grandpa's engineer boot patting the floor, his cigar in the corner of his mouth, sometimes lit, mostly not. Felt like the little house was shaking, about to take off for some other region. We were in one of the many middles of nowhere, hills and woods of southern Iowa, a spit from the Missouri border. It was getting late, no one minded. One tune would go directly into the next. They were all played to that thumping beat. Only occasionally would a waltz happen for a few minutes, then back to the hold on, here we go deal. I was getting sleepy. There was a bunch of us kids sitting or lying on the floor, being stepped over by the grown-ups. The music kept rolling like a train with no conductor. At some point, I fell asleep. Someone carried me into the tiny back bedroom. I woke up later. All was quiet. I went out the front door into the yard to take a leak. It was so quiet. There were more stars than you could believe.
I love it. That's
Oh,
such a
thanks.
that's such a vivid memory of being young and the
Yeah, I
memory
spent a
of,
lot of time down there when I was a kid. You know, we lived in my mother. That was her folks that we went down to see, and I was raised up in Missouri, southern Missouri, where my dad was from, and then also southern Kansas, right down by the Oklahoma border. We lived there. My dad was a preacher, uh, evangelical, as they call him now,
hmm.
preacher, and we lived down there, and then we moved back to Iowa, I think, when I was about 12.
So are those your earliest musical memories?
Oh
At
yeah, yeah, definitely. That whole side of the family was musical. My mother played, grandma played the organ. All the uncles and cousins played something, and there were a lot of the Southern Missouri people were more storytellers. My dad, he had five brothers and a sister, and when we go down there, was more storytelling, really stories about snakes and things like that. But a lot of music in Happy Morning. That plus church. I mean, the Holy Roller Church that we were in when I was little, there was a lot of music and a lot of it had a good beat, had
Hmm.
gospel music, and a lot of times gospel quartets would come through and sing at the church. I loved that.
That opens that harmony up and so many
Yeah.
more levels of music. That's great. So the storytelling and the music have always been a part of it then, huh?
Oh yeah.
So
And
that
then my
fits.
mother taught me to play guitar.
She did. She did.
Yeah.
I saw the thing about that in there. That's very cool. Is there maybe a tune you could play that
Oh sure. I can find my for all you guitar players
yeah,
out there.
let's talk about your guitar a little bit.
This is a Flamang guitar, David Flamang. He lives up around Green, Iowa. He's been making guitars for quite a while now. But this is one of his little parlor guitars. Travel Kansas and Missouri, spreading the good news. Preacher's family in their polished shoes, all worn out, polished shoes. Mama fixed the soup beans and served them up by candlelight. Tucked this in and I know now she must have worried for many a sleepless night. Well, Dad and me stopped by the store when the day was done. Standing at the counter, he said, I forgot to get the peaches, son. What kind should I get, Dad? I said to him, where he stood in line. And he answered just like I knew he would, son, go and get the cheapest kind. Oh, but the love, it was not the cheapest kind. It was riches any you could ever find. I see the ghost of my grandfather from time to time. Some big city with all the people dressed so fine. He usually has a little paper bag clutched real tight. His work clothes are dirty, he don't look at nobody in the eye. Oh, he was little, he was wiry, he was lots of fun. Rocky as that old Ozark dirt that he come from. They was raising 7 children on a little farm and not the best of times. The few things they got down at the store was always just the cheapest kind. But the love, it was not the cheapest kind. It was riches any eye could ever find. Fancy houses with wealthy people I don't understand. I always wish that I could be holding on to my grandpa's hand. He'd lead me down that big old gravel road somewhere back to that little house where there was just enough supper for whoever was there. My people's hands and faces are so dear to me. All I have to do is close my eyes and I can see them all so near to me. I have to laugh, I have to cry when I think of all the things that drew those lines. So many years of making do with the cheapest kind. Oh, but the love, it was not the cheapest kind. Oh, it was rich as riches any you could ever find. The love, it was not the cheapest kind. Oh, it was riches any eye ever find. Cheapest kind.
Cheapest kind. Thank you so much.
Oh, sure.
I've got a couple of questions here that are coming down. Bear with me as I read through this one. It's a little longer and I don't know how it's going to end. So here we are together, discovering this question together. When you played at the Old School of Folk Music in Chicago on November 22nd, 2003, you performed Sleeper with an extra verse. It's one of my all-time favorite songs, but I have spent over 20 years trying to remember or find that verse somewhere with no luck. Any chance it's in the book? Or would you be so kind as to let me know how it goes? Please, please, please.
Well,
Please.
I'd be glad to if I remembered it. You know, a lot of times I'll add a verse to one of my songs while I'm doing it, or take one out, or and Sleeper, I remember that song kind of, but I don't remember what verse I might have added, however long ago that was. But if I think of it, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Jira. Here's just a note from John Loretz. I saw you at Passim several times back in the Bob Donnellan days.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
great. That's a
And
music
Rayanne,
festival.
let's not forget Rayanne.
Mm,
That was his wife.
okay. Jeff Berger, your music is a national treasure, and it's been too long since your last album. You're going to get this question. Might a new one be in the works? And when, and might you ever do a duet album with Iris, meaning Iris Dement?
Well, the duet album with Iris. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but uh, Iris doesn't sing with me much in public because, as you know, she sang a lot with John Prine, and they sounded great together. And she said it makes her nervous to sing with me because I don't do them the same way. And John, you could pretty much rely on how he was going to do it. And I'm just not like that. So
You're too unpredictable. Is that what it is?
I guess so.
Huh.
But I don't know. It's getting a little late in the game, but I wouldn't say never say never. Isn't that what they say?
I like that.
Oh, what was the other thing? Album. I found out when I quit touring that for me, writing and recording and performing were all just all like one thing almost. And once I stopped touring, I mean, I have written some songs, but and I might even have written enough for a record. I don't know. But the other thing, as we all know, musicians are not being paid for their work. So, and CDs are over. So that leaves musicians being paid by streaming, which they might as well just send you a nickel on a thank you for
Once a
all
year, right?
musicians. I know a lot of touring musicians who are having trouble because of that very thing. And also, a lot of musicians are touring more because they don't make the money from the products that they used to make. So I don't think about all that stuff too much, but I do worry about the younger musicians coming along and how, if we're ever going to come up with some system that can fairly pay the people who are doing the work that the companies are making the money off on streaming. So,
Yes, that is a predicament.
yeah, it
But
is.
it's young people are resilient, and they find
Sure
they have
are.
to, they have
Yeah.
20
Yep.
20 irons in the fire, if you
Yeah.
will, to try
Yeah.
to make it all float at the end. But yeah, it is a challenge out there. What kind of advice would you have to a youngster getting started in the folk world these days?
Boy, hang
Going to
on.
computers, is that,
Hang on and move fast. I don't know. I admire, I've got young friends that are trying it and they do there's a lot more house concerts going on. I've always thought there should be an actual powerful musicians union, that would get musicians together and that we could present something of a united force in trying to get people paid. I don't know if that kind of thing will happen, but I think that would be a beautiful thing.
nice, some kind of group
I
organization?
admire the brave young ones that are still out there trying to do it, because
Yeah,
we need songs.
we do. More than ever, more than ever. Let's see. This is kind of a hot button question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. From Dan in Minnesota. I've heard you no longer perform Iowa Waltz on account of the politics of Iowa these days. Is that true?
That's true. And that I didn't even know I was feeling that way very much because I hadn't been performing, but I did a concert. Me and Bo Ramsey and Dave Moore did a concert at the local theater here in town, the Angler Theater. And somebody hollered out, "Play the Iowa Waltz," and I immediately burst into this kind of a rant about I wouldn't sing that song. What's happened in Iowa politically is it's I don't even know what to call it, frightening, crazy. But Iowa has just they've been terrible on everything I care about. The environment. There's no water laws. They've been terrible on young trans people. You name it, and they've been awful about it. So, when the Iowa Waltz is a simple little song. It says something about we take care of each other and things. Stuff that's in that song that I sang. They're not doing it. And I'm not going to sing that song until we get some kind of government in here who seems to care about people. So
There it is. All right. Well, thank you for answering that so
sure.
truthfully. Let's see. There's a note in here that if you want to listen to a Greg Brown interview, there's one on basicfolk.com. So there's a link in the chat to that, people. Greg Brown heads is what Cindy is calling them. Tim Merkel said the first reading that you did of Hackle Barney reminds me so much of the aunts or the ants in Canned Peaches, one of the first songs of yours that I ever heard. My mother
cool.
turned me on to you, Greg.
Oh, great. That's
Right.
nice.
Here's another one here. In the Dark with You is one of my Desert Island discs, an absolute perfect album from start to finish. When I turn friends onto your music, I always start with this album and they always love it. This album and Songs of Innocence and Experience, which shares similar instrumentation, has such a unique, cohesive sound. Do those albums and that sound you hold a special place for you too? Did you make a conscious decision to move away from that sound for the rest of your career?
Yeah, no, I just when I was recording, I always just I generally recorded with people I knew or knew somewhat. Like the Blake record, it turned out that Michael Doucet, who plays with Beausoleil, he had been on the Prairie Home Show, which I was working for at the time, and I had met Michael a time or two before, but he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go and record this album of songs by William Blake," and his eyes lit up. It turns out the guy was a Blake scholar and that he had handled the original Blake manuscripts in the British Museum wearing white gloves, and he knew all about Blake. And so he played beautifully on that record, I have to say. In the Dark with You, yeah, a lot of my records, when I think back on it, I just I gathered some songs together and then I played them with some people that I knew at the time, and we went in and made a record. I didn't make any conscious choice about. I mostly went by the songs, the way the songs felt. Like I spent some time in Europe in 1986, I think it was, and I came back with a bunch of songs. And I wanted them to sound kind of, I think they called it Euro pop or something back then. It was kind of a sparse sound, little keyboard. When I got back, I tried to record that record, but it sounded like a blues record gone bad, really, is what it sounded like. But I always kind of went by the songs and what I felt what sound would work best with them.
Right on. I've noticed that Bo Ramsey comes up frequently in quotes from you about, I learned a lot from,
Oh yeah.
like I learned everything from Bo Ramsey. What kind of things did you learn from?
Well, I'm mostly speaking in that case of recording because before I met Bo, I'd done some recording, but pretty much we just went in and set up and turned the mics on and went. I didn't, and Bo really taught me how to slow down, how to really think about the song selection, how to do several takes. Just he kind of slowed me down and sort of taught me the art of recording. And we were lucky in the engineer we had was a guy named Tom Tucker, who originally was from Iowa but was living in Minneapolis, and who was Prince's main engineer. And that was out of Paisley Park, which was the studio. And we recorded several albums out there and several albums out in a little town on the river. But Tom was the world-class engineer. Several of the albums didn't really get much critical notice, but they'd get notice from the audiophile, I think it's called, people, because of Tom's amazing recording. So between Bo and Tom, I learned how to enjoy making records.
And you made them independently, right? I mean,
yeah, I started my own little label, Red House Records. I had sent a demo tape out to the smaller labels of the day, which there weren't very many back then. And several of them replied and said, "Are you touring very much?" And I said, "Well, no, not really." And they said, well, if you were touring more, we'd make a record with you. And I said, well, if you'd make a record with me, I could tour more. So it seemed like kind of a catch-22 deal there. So I thought, well, I'll start one. So I went down to the bank and got a little loan, put out a couple albums. And then when I moved up to St. Paul to work on the Prairie Home Show, I met Bob Feldman. And Bob, all that happened really is I had about 3 boxes of records. We took those from my apartment and put them in his apartment. And then he was Red House Records. And he's the one who really turned it into a label.
Oh.
I didn't have much to do with it.
I do like there's a quote I noticed in there, like, I got a good look at the music business. I wasn't too impressed.
Right.
So I started my own label.
That's very true.
But I feel like, that kind of
yeah.
confidence and maybe stubbornness or hard-headedness, has been a theme that has run through your career too, right? I mean,
well, I guess so. I mean, to myself, I just felt like I was being practical. I had met some people in the music business, and I mean, it seemed to me like they could be selling shoes or cars or anything else. I didn't feel any music in them. They didn't seem to know much about what's really going on with music, and I didn't care for them too much. So I wanted to go a different route, and that one turned out to be pretty good. I mean, one big thing for me was always freedom. I wanted the freedom to record what I wanted to record, the way I want. I didn't want any businessman telling me, this or that. So that worked out well for me. I could, like, when I decided to do the William Blake songs, now a lot of labels would have said, well, do that on your own time or something. But I mean, I was in charge of the record label pretty much. So whatever I wanted to record, I could record. And I liked that feeling.
Yeah, that's good. There's a lot of hungry people that have that feeling, however. So
yeah.
It's glad that it worked out for you.
Yeah.
Let's see. There are a few more comments coming in, and then maybe you could do Blue Car for us. And
of course, yeah.
Let me just get through these questions real quick, though. Brett Huggett or Huggett, sorry if I can't pronounce. Your playing taught me how to play fingerstyle guitar. Who are some of your favorite past and current fingerstyle guitar players? That was something I wanted to get to too. So
okay. Yeah. Boy, there's a lot of them. I really, back when I was trying to learn how to play stuff, I really liked Skip James. Right away, I liked the whole sound he got on the guitar. Fred McDowell, love the way he plays. There's so many country blues players I really like, but a lot of country pickers too. And as far as more recently, Malcolm Holcomb, who recently passed away, was a big bright light in the sky for me, I'll tell you what. And I love the way Malcolm played guitar. I saw one of his reviews, a review of one of Malcolm's shows or records, and the guy said he plays the guitar like he invented it. And that's true for Malcolm.
Wow.
A lot of people are a finger picker or they're a strummer. And Malcolm had a style that was all that stuff mixed up and just a wizard on the guitar.
Malcolm Holcomb, is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great.
He was my favorite.
Awesome. Someone, Lars says, speaking of canned foods, I believe that's in the earlier song. Did you write your vignette and learn it cold before performing it?
Which song is he talking about again?
I think he was talking about The Cheapest Kind.
Oh, The Cheapest Kind. Well, that song is just, I wrote that, and that one I've never fiddled around with too much. I might do it in a little different rhythm or something. They might have been talking about canned goods. Some of my songs would have a story kind of mixed into that song. And with canned goods, I had a story about being down Hackamarty. I had a song called Good Morning Coffee that had a story about getting coffee, things like that. And those were all, what do you call that, improvised. And then over time I would change things and change the story here or there. But they all started off just live improvising in performance.
Yeah, I love some of that stuff. I was listening to oh, 89 album Down There, or so Down in There
I'm in
maybe.
there. Yeah.
And there's, I don't know if it's the right one, but there's a song where you mentioned Tom Waits and it just
Oh,
cracked me
that's a
up.
really that
Yeah,
was a live album from
that was a lot. Yeah, that seemed very off the cuff
yeah,
and almost like
that whole song was improvised. It
Mojo
just happened to get
Nixon-esque,
recorded.
kind of
Um,
the
yeah,
story song, like
yeah,
right on it. It's beautiful. But
yeah.
I got a kick out of that, I'll tell you. Tim Merkel says it always sounds so off the cuff, sitting on the back porch telling a story to me. I believe he's talking about the song you just played. It was so freaking funny, and I can't imagine how many times I must have listened to it as I learned finger picking. I will enjoy hearing Greg's response to your question. That's about, that song. So yeah, that's great. Um, Nathan Frazier says you should start a YouTube channel. He'd love to hear you plunk around more, tell some stories, and just talk.
You
So
know, I might do something like that if I could figure out how to. I don't know.
I think Mei Ling can probably help you with that. So
Oh, I bet she could. She
you're right
seems
on
to
it.
know all that stuff. Yeah.
Here comes more Iowa again, and more politics, but I'm going to go through it anyway. I am a native Iowan, but all but 12 years of my life, 68 years of my life, recently moved to Minnesota without regrets. I share your
Yeah.
concerns about our native state. I got to hear you at Stone City, the general store before
Oh, that's way
kids in
back.
the
Yeah.
1980s.
Yeah.
The train that carried Jimmy Rogers home remains a favorite and one I play often. Of course, always mentioning the author's name and the story you told with the song. Keep writing, playing, talking, and writing. Luckily, that song is in this book. So, you know, Steve, go ahead and pick that up. That's from Steve Gates, by the way.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I
Mark
remember
Croft.
that. I remember those Stone City gigs, particularly because Stone City was where Grant Wood did a lot of his painting. But uh, I remember I did a show over there once, and I opened for Doc Watson and his son.
Oh, crap.
And I had written, I think it was Out in the Country, one of those kind of finger picking songs. And I had really written that. I used to do this every once in a while. I'd write a song kind of without mentioning it specifically, but it would be a song of honor from me to these other people I like so much. And that Out in the Country was, I really wrote it with John Hurt, Mississippi John Hurt in mind. Well, Doc said to me after the show, he said, I really like that. I really like that Out in the Country. He said, it reminds me of John Hurt. So, of course, I was like, Doc
Oh my
Watson.
God. Right. Where do I go from here? Right.
Yeah,
Wow, that's incredible. That is something. That could be one of the nicest comments I've ever heard.
yeah.
Let's see. Mark Croft, sort of a question. The 2002 LP Going Driftless, an artist tribute to Greg Brown, was my
Oh,
entry to Greg's music. What was the story for that set of covers by women? Also, why isn't it on streaming? I think the covers are really good interpretations.
you know that album, I had taken a kind of a little hiatus or whatever you call it for a while. I'd been touring pretty hard for a long time. And I thought, well, I'll take a year off. So I did, and Bob Feldman, the Red House Records guy, of course, he wanted to keep putting out records. And he came up with the idea of this tribute album with featuring all women. And all the money went to breast cancer research. So I thought that was a fine idea. So that record got made, and I remember listening to it for the first time. I got a test pressing, and I put it on, and I was listening through to it, and I was really enjoying it. I thought most of the songs were pretty good, and then Iris came on singing, and I didn't really know Iris at that point. She came on singing "The Train Carrying Jimmy Rogers Home," and out of my mouth came the words, "You other girls go sit down." That was how much I liked Iris's song and the way she sang it and everything.
Wow.
But yeah, I was proud to have that record.
And that's before you knew Iris. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean I knew of her, but I
Mhm.
didn't. I had really not ever hung out with her. But so
All right, here's one from Charlie. How do you feel about Michael's version of Rudy Toot Toot for the moon nowadays?
oh, I know who you're talking about. I think he's the only one that ever recorded. Michael, what was his last name?
I don't know.
Okay, well, Michael, Yeah, I liked it fine, and it also bought me a new Ashley wood stove. So that may be the first song I ever got recorded. I remember Peter, Paul, and Mary were gonna record it,
Mm,
and then some they didn't record it. So uh,
all
yeah.
right. All right, we got some more questions coming in, but oh, it's Michael Johnson.
Michael
That's
Johnson, that's right.
that's who it
Yeah,
was. And Lars
I
wanted to
liked him a
clarify
lot. He was good.
that it was canned goods. You got spell checked, not canned foods. Speaking of canned, okay, that's right. He's also amazed that you gone about the trip to your grandparents' home, Um, having such a visual, you know, a vivid recollection is really
Uh-huh. Yeah.
incredible, and that seems to really come through in all of your songs. So, how do you attribute your? Is that just a writer's, a poet mind, where you're constantly taking things
Probably.
in?
My memory, I've noticed, is kind of more of a thing of flashes. Like some people can remember the day and what the curtains looked like and who was sitting in the living room. I don't. But I have strong flashes, I would call them, of remembering things and mixing those things together. And that's definitely a lot of the way I've written songs, is like these mixes of memory and other stories. It's like a flash is the only way I can. It's more like I'm looking at something and listening than I am composing something.
Kind of just you're the conduit for it. Then once that
I'm a
strikes, then
conduit. Yeah, I like
and
that.
how does that translation take place from brain to pen or guitar? Or I mean, do you write lyrics first? Do you write songs first? Is it,
It's,
you know?
it's just it's kind of indescribable. Like my friend Farron says, if I knew how I do it, I'd be doing it right now. But with me,
Word.
it's kind of a knot or a piece of the song. I just hear it as I'm walking around or driving, and then I just start there. And it's usually kind of some notes and some words. And that's where I start from. Sometimes I remember writing a song called the Brand New 64 Dodge, and I was going across O'Hare Airport on my way to catch a plane to go do a gig. And all I had was the first lines, which were money comes out of dad's billfold, hankies come out of, that's all I had.
Wow.
Walking across the airport, all of a sudden, bam, I hear the whole song. I mean, all of it.
And it's like we're
So I ran
in
over to a
63, right?
seat and I sat down, whipped out some paper, and I wrote down the lyrics while I was still hearing them, and that's the way that song got written.
That's great.
It just came like that.
All right. Well, how about a song about a different car? You want to do
Oh,
do
sure.
that?
Yeah, yeah. This was I remember this was written in Corvallis, Oregon, and I was sitting out front of a bar called Squirrels, waiting for a woman who I knew probably was not going to show up. And a guy pulled up in an old blue car, and he looked kind of harried and worried. And he went inside, and then I sat there and wrote this song. I'm driving my blue car, baby, down from the mountain so high. I'm driving my blue car, baby, down from the mountain so high. I'm driving my blue car, coming down to say goodbye. Oh, well, lightning's gonna strike those tall pine trees. Little bird's gonna sing and fly, wheel around in the mountain breeze. Oh, but some things, baby, they just ain't gonna be. back upon my mound. I close my door against the wind. When I get back upon the mountain, I will close my door against the wind and park my old blue car. And I might tumble down the mountain, but I will never fall in love again. I'll park that old blue car out on cement blocks out in my yard. Gonna park that old blue car on cement blocks out in my yard. About all I know is that life is short, love is hard. I'm driving my blue car, baby, down from the mountain so high. Oh, I'm driving my blue car, baby, down from the mountain so high. I'm driving my blue car, coming down to say goodbye. Blue car.
Very nice. Do you remember when that one was written? I mean, you said
Yeah, it'd have been,
Corvallis.
been in the '90s, probably the late '90s, early 2000s, somewhere in there.
And what kind of a car was it?
It was just an old blue car. I mean, I don't remember them. It was a
Make and
nice
model.
shade of blue, but it was pretty beat up.
A late model sedan.
Could have been a Dodge.
Sounds good. All right, a couple more things coming in here. Jim Womeldorf says, in regards to your storytelling, I noticed that over the decades of attending your concerts since 1984, that as time went on, you talked less during performances. Is that intentional?
Well, no, not really. I kind of remember there was a period there where I remember having the feeling like maybe I was talking too much, maybe I should sing more songs. But you know, I just went out and played the way I felt that day. But I do remember getting complaints, not about talk, but some nights I would do mostly covers. You know, I'd do a Merle Haggard song and a Robert Johnson's. I'd kind of get into that, and I'd get complaints about that. You know, why don't you
Play your own stuff.
And I think those were valid complaints. You know, I mean, I don't want to go out and see John Prine and hear him do Buck Owens all night. You know, it's just. But I would do that sometimes, and that was. I
Right.
probably shouldn't have done that.
Ah,
But I like a lot of other people. You know, one way to learn about songwriting is to learn and learn them good. A bunch of people's songs. I did that always. If I heard a song I liked, I would learn how to play it.
and then it just might come out in some way, yeah, through your own
Yeah.
filter. That's great.
Yeah.
Right on. John wants to say thank you. You were the soundtrack to my 20s in the late 80s and early 90s. So John is you're riding with John, you know.
Okay. All right.
John's riding with you, so that's good. The Poet Game is probably, this is Dan again. The Poet Game is probably my favorite of your songs, although it is very hard to choose which song I like best. And it ends something like, if I had a chance to do it again, I'm not sure I'd play the Poet Game. I hope that isn't true, because you've given the world so many.
Oh
great
no,
poems.
I really enjoyed it all and all. But you know, I think any job you do and you do it for a while, there's times you think, well, what about if I'd been an English teacher? You know, what if I'd been a surgeon? It's more like that. Just you know,
Yeah.
I think we should get. I don't like the whole Christian story of eternity. When you really think about eternity and singing songs for eternity, it's not a good feeling to me anyway. But I feel like we should get like 3 lives. I think reincarnation is a little egotistical. But I think if we could have 3 lives, you know, you could try out a lot of different things. And then you'd probably be a lot more content to go back to being wind and dirt.
Hopefully, yeah, a little more focused than the first time around, in my case,
Yeah,
at
yeah,
least, you know.
yeah, yeah,
I'm flitting around all over the place.
yeah, me too. Yeah.
In speaking of memory and aging, Lars wants you to know that he's keeping his mind sharp, not doing crossword puzzles, but learning and playing your music. So that's
Oh, well,
also
that's very sweet.
something good. John says you were great as Hades on the Hades Town album. Any chance you make an appearance on Broadway?
No, that ain't gonna happen. But I did just see in the paper the other day that Hadestown, the Broadway play, I guess it must be going on the road because it's coming to Iowa City.
Oh, great.
I'll tell you a funny story about that if we got time. We may be
We
running
got a
out of
little
time.
time.
But
I want to have you read one other thing before we go. Sorry about
Aeneas
that.
Mitchell, who's a wonderful person, she was a friend of mine, DeFranco's, who was a friend of mine, and she sent me a CD of just the music, I think. Anyway, she wanted me to be the king of hell, and I
Quite an
said,
honor.
well, why not? And so one winter night, long time ago now, she came to town, and we went down to a little recording studio, the only one we had here in Iowa City. And my understanding was I was just going to sing harmony on a couple songs. That's easy. Uh, but then she said, "No, I want you to sing this song, The Wall," and there were two or three others. And I didn't know the songs. I hadn't really, done my homework because I didn't think I was going to be much of a part of it. But anyway, we went down there, and I just muddled my way through. And at first, she tried to give me direction. She wrote the songs, and she wanted me to do this and accentuate. And I said, "Look, Inez, the only way I can sing is just to sing. I'm just going to give you the best I got, and that's what we'll do here." And so I did, and I really enjoyed it. And I think that Wall song, that was a prophetic song for one thing. And then I did another one on there, "Hey Little Songbird." I did that with Ani, but I enjoyed the whole thing.
Oh, that's great.
But in fact, Ani, I know, was just recently. She was in the musical on Broadway for a while. Anyway, I don't know if she still is, but
Yeah, I think
yeah,
I saw that she was in the Broadway one. I don't know
yeah,
if she's in the
yeah.
touring crew, but
I got to do the song one time. Inez came to town. We have this summer musical outdoor thing downtown, and she was doing it, and I got up and did the Wall with her, and that's the only time we ever got to really perform together.
oh, that's great. All right. Well, I was hoping to get you to read your vignette Fatherhood, but I wanted to
Fatherhood, sure. That's a short one, as I recall.
kind of short. And also wanted to ask, like, how does it feel to watch Pieta kind of
Yeah.
trod down the
Uh,
same path as you?
you
Is
know
that
what
a
page the Fatherhood is on? I think it's towards the end, isn't it?
yeah, it's let me see here. 41 or no, yeah, 41.
41?
Yeah, I think that's what
Oh,
it
that's
says.
not so far into it as I thought. Okay.
I've got them on 2 pages on a PDF, so it is 41, yeah. Proper.
Well, here it is, Fatherhood. Some of these things I wrote, these pieces, and other ones, Mei Ling just asked me some questions and taped
Oh,
them. I
really?
think
Is this
this
one
is
of them?
what she just asked me, and this is what I said.
All right.
There's this romantic idea of being an artist and a musician and traveling and writing poetry. It's pretty romantic for about 2 days. I think the only people who really end up doing it are people who that really want to do it because they have to. You have to be able to live the life. A lot of good musicians I've known, they just can't do the traveling thing. It's hard to do. It doesn't work out for everybody. It was hard when the kids were little. It was really hard to leave them. But when I was home, I was really home. I didn't have to get up and go to the office. So I did a lot of things with them when they were little. But then I'd be gone for 2 weeks. It was hard on everybody. That's that fatherhood piece.
Fatherhood.
Yeah, Pieta. I'll always remember Pieta. She always played piano and wrote poetry from the time she was little. She was living in Tucson, and she showed up to visit me here in Iowa City. And I was in my little office doing something, and Peter was sitting out in the dining room. All of a sudden, I was kind of concentrating, and then all of a sudden hear this voice and a guitar, and I realized it's Pieta. And I put down my pencil and I walked out. I said, Pieta. And she finished the song, and it was great. It was great, and I think she's just a fine singer and songwriter, and well, she's turned into a real good guitar player. Yeah, I'm really proud of her.
Oh, that's great. That's good stuff. All right, well, we're running up against it, but I just wanted to get to the last couple of comments here. Oh, Tim remembers you being, it's interesting that you mentioned being aware of your own talking too much. On a recording of the Laughing River up in Traverse City, you talk about it in your opening about talking too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he just bought the book and he's hoping that the song is in
Yeah.
it. Let's see. Somebody wants you to talk about late night radio, but I'm afraid we aren't going to have time for that.
Okay.
Well, maybe. Let's go. You got a short memory of
Late
late
night
night
radio, I just remember writing that song because that was a real clear memory of me and my sister in the back seat going from Kansas over to Southern Missouri. My folks are both good singers, and I can remember that feeling, that cozy feeling of being safe, feeling of being in the back seat, and then we'd be singing some old songs. I just tried to recapture that
Oh, that's great.
feeling.
I'm glad that we took time for that then. Tom, thank you very much, Greg. You're a big inspiration. Nathan, can't wait to get the book. Glad you're playing the poet game this time around, Greg. You've been a huge inspiration to me and a lot of folks up in here in Minnesota, so that's good. Denise says, you used to play at Kumbwa every December on my husband's birthday.
Oh yeah.
It'd be great to see you again. Your music has been the soundtrack to our
that was in
lives.
Santa Cruz. Yeah, that was a great joint. I would usually do the gigs there with Nina Gerber, who's a great guitar player.
Absolutely. Well, all right, Greg, I'd just like to thank you
Okay.
so much for your
Hey, thank you
time
so much. Yeah,
and
thanks a lot. I've enjoyed it.
encourage everyone to get a copy of this book. It's great. There's all the chords are there, all the lyrics are there. It's just such a treasure for people to be able to get their hands on, and glad that you spent the time and glad that
Well, thank you very much.
Lynn
Good luck to you.
Zoria. Good luck to you too,
Okay.
and thanks again.
Oh,
Cheers.
bye.
Thanks everyone, and remember that there'll be a replay of this up on acousticguitar.com within 24 hours, and hope to see you all soon, either at acousticguitar.com, on Patreon. And Greg, be good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right,
Cheers.
bye.
Bye.